You know, we said in the Payat, we said on Arabic, we said, Mamlech, God, Hashem is Mamlech Melochim V'lo HaMelucha. He coronates kings, but he's the king. Alan. He points who goes to the Amud, but you understand who has the last say. Alan. Okay? Okay. The Mishnah tells us that initially if a person would appoint an agent to deliver a get and he would cancel the get, right, the get was canceled. And if he would cancel the get in the presence of Bezdin, so with an argument, Bezdin, 2 or 3 people. But if he would cancel, it was canceled. But there was a chance that the woman wasn't aware of it. Right? Wasn't aware of it. So Ram Galil legislated that the woman has to be told that the get is canceled. It's not canceled unless the woman is aware that the get is canceled. If the woman is not aware the get is canceled, or the shliach, the agent who's delivering the get, that it's canceled, it's not canceled. If the get is delivered, she's permitted to remarry. So the Gemara is going to ask a question, but if actually it's not a valid get, I mean, how could the Chachomim allow her to remarry? She's a married woman. The Gemara, what? So the Gemara is going to say, they annul the marriage retroactively. Because the marriage is what? Is conditional. Kol makarish dat rabbanon makarish. Whoever marries is based on they're agreeable to the marriage. So in this situation where he had no right to cancel, right? So they said the get's not a get. The get is a get. But what do you mean is a get? It's not a get. The answer is she was never married, so she doesn't need a get to remarry. So in terms of in actuality, she has a get. So the way people perceive it, she's marrying because she's a divorced woman. But in the reality, why is she permitted to marry? Because it was annulled. It's as if she was never married, regardless how many children she has from that man. All those children were born out of wedlock, but she was never a married woman.
If she got the get and
he canceled it by not informing the agent or her, or the wife. No, that's not good. It's not good enough. Because there's a chance. I mean, in terms of Yibum, be a question about Yibum would be a question. If he didn't have children, if he didn't have any children, okay, so that's the least of it. This is a much more prevalent case where the husband cancels the get, or cancels the agent on the way, and he's not aware of it. How is he supposed to be aware of it? Well, he made his statement. We'll see in a moment. The Gemara is going to explain what exactly Tikkun Olam. Rabbi Galil said that the cancellation of the husband, unless the shliach or the woman is aware before she gets the get that the get was canceled, or the shliach was canceled, the get is considered a get, and Tikkun Olam. It's in the best interest of Klal Yisrael. What does that mean? What does that mean? Rabbi Yochanan Amar Takonos Mamzerim, because there's to prevent illegitimacy. Because what's going to be? The get's canceled. She believes she'll get the get. She's unaware that the agent was canceled, or the agent is unaware it was canceled. She's going to remarry. So it's considered adultery. Because the get, right, the agent only has value, only represents the husband as long as the husband wants he should represent him. So Bnei Takonos Mamzerim. Second. Reish Lokisham Bnei Takonos Agunos. What does it mean? It's a takana, so the woman should be able to remarry. What does this mean? Rabbi Yochanan Bnei Takonos Mamzerim Sovah Rav Nachman. There's a question because she's going to remarry, believing that the get was not canceled, and she's a married woman, so it's considered adultery. So the children are going to be illegitimate. The Omer B'fnei Shnayim, Rav Nachman says, when it says originally they would cancel it, Bezdin meant in the presence of 2. Now the question is, when you cancel the presence of 2, will this word get out sufficiently that she will know that she's still a married woman because the get was canceled? It's not sufficient. Ubeitrei les lukolo, v'hilo shama, v'lo yodo. She never heard what happened, and she was unaware. V'oslo mitzvah. So she goes and gets married. V'ika mamzerim. So since she's a married woman, because the get was canceled, So the children are illegitimate, mamzerim.
But are we saying that three people would be good?
Well, we'll see in a moment. So they should have, rather than canceling the get, they should have said, given a presence of 3.
Exactly.
Tosa says your question. Okay. So Rabbi Yochanan says the concern is mamzerim. That's tikkun olam. One second. Tosa also talks about that. They had a good night's sleep, both of these guys last night. Okay. So the issue is mamzerim. There's a Tosas in 2 locations. The Gemara says that if you have chatzi eved chatzi ben chorin, right? You have a slave, man or woman, a man, let's say a man, married to, owned by 2 owners. One emancipates him. So he's a half free man, half slave. So Beis Shammai says that you compel, you coerce the one who owns the half, still owns the other half, a slave, to emancipate him, so he should be a free man. Beis Hillel says no. He works one day for himself and one day for his master, because he's half free man. So it's like he took the position of the original partner. So Beis Shammai says, Beis Hillel, you actually resolved the financial issue, but what about marriage? He can't get married, and since he has an obligation to marry, he's not able to marry, because he can't marry a regular Jewish woman because of what? Because he's a mamzer. And he can't marry a slave because of what? Because he's a free man. He's a full Jew. Hevim's a full Jew, can't marry the slave woman, and the half that's the slave cannot marry a Jewish woman. So what do you do? So therefore, Beis Shammai, Beis Hillel retracted his position, and he concurs with Beis Hillel, Beis Shammai, that you divorce, and he has to write a document of obligation to the second master, that he owes him the value of half of himself. That's the Mishnah. It's Mishnah Chagiga.
No, this has nothing to do with mamzerim.
Wait.
So this is just a slave
Wait.
situation.
Good. You're saying good.
You mentioned mamzerim.
I didn't get to the mamzer yet. We're going to get to the mamzer. Okay? So Tosas asks a question. The halacha is a ger is permitted to marry a mamzer. So let him marry a mamzeris. Because so if he married a mamzeris, he'll be able to perform the mitzvah of procreation, pruruvu. And a ger, because he's not called, says lo yovo mamzer b'kal Hashem, and so he can marry. And since a ger is permitted to marry a mamzer, let him marry a mamzeris.
Because he's free.
He's free.
Right.
So what's the problem?
Yeah.
Yeah, but the mamzer also is not. It's not a problem. The mamzeris is permitted to be with the half the slave person also, because the prohibition lo yeh kodesh doesn't apply. So Tosa says because we don't want to increase mamzerim in Klal Yisrael. We don't want to increase children to be mamzerim. That's because that blemish doesn't go away. That's something which is it perpetuates. It goes from one generation. So therefore, we see. I'm just mentioning it. This takonis tikkun olam is we want to try to limit the mamzerim. It's interesting. It's not ishes ish. Over here, the Gemara doesn't say because it'll turn out to be an ishes ish. She'll be adultery. It says v'ika mamzerim. That's the issue, right? It's interesting. You say you don't want it. It's such a tragedy calamity would take place. A married woman will think she's divorced and she's going to marry. So it seems to be if it would be limited to her, we wouldn't be so concerned. But since there's going to be this fallout of mamzerim, which will affect Klal Yisrael, that we don't want. That is the famous Ramban. The Ramban says, during Bayis Sheni there were no revealed miracles. Right, except for Hanukkah was a revealed miracle. But if a woman committed adultery, she was forewarned by the husband not to sequester herself with a person, so she drank the mesota. Right? If she agreed, if she claimed her innocence, she went through the ritual of the sota. And what does the Torah say? If fact she was guilty, the Torah describes what happens to her. She swells and she bursts, and she just becomes dismembered. It says, "L'man yishmu v'yiro," people will see this and they'll understand the seriousness of this type of behavior. It's a nes golo. It's a revealed miracle. So the Ramban says to maintain the purity of Klal Yisrael, to weed out that there should be any illegitimacy, although we were not worthy of a miracle. During Bai Sheni there were no revealed miracles, but for the sake of Tyrus Klal Yisrael, the purity of the Jewish people, this remained in place. That there should not be mamzeros, otherwise a woman could commit adultery and you have issues here. This minimizes that issue over there. So it's more than adultery, it's mamzeros. So that's what I'm saying. She'll marry, become mamzeri. Reish Lokasham ne takonos agunos. Reish Lokash no, the issue is we're not concerned about, she's not going to be aware that the get was canceled. It's takonos agunos. What happens? The husband wants to give her a hard time. The husband sent the get with a shliach, whatever it is, then he cancels it. She's aware. Now she's stuck, she can't get married. She remains an aguna. You know what we say? We don't want a woman, if the man doesn't want to be with her, and he already gave the get, he has to come himself and tell her himself, or pursue the agent to cancel it. Otherwise the get is a get. As a result of this, the woman will be able to remarry. So the husband is not going to inconvenience himself to go to her and say he won't cancel it. He won't cancel it. Either he won't cancel it, or if he would cancel it, we totally ignore him. We ignore him. So like this, the woman should be able to remarry. So even though the woman is aware, so we're not concerned about illegitimacy, she's going to marry. She's not going to get married, but she's stuck. Because the husband's not here. What is she going to do? You know, we tell the husband, go fly a kite. We tell him it's irrelevant what you did, unless you come directly to tell the woman it's canceled, it's not canceled. So is the husband going to do it? He's not going to do it. If he comes, okay. But if he doesn't come, the get remains in force. She's divorced. So it's a takona that there should not be an aguna. She should not remain aguna. So now the Gemara asks its question. What do you mean? No, if he doesn't, no. He has to come right away before she gets it. She gets it, she can marry immediately. You have to preempt. Does the agent get to her first, or you have to get to the agent before he delivers it? Okay? One second. So Tosa asked the question which Ernie asked. If we're saying that originally Rabbi Yochanan is of the opinion it's takonos mamzeres because there's no call, because bezdin means initially two was sufficient, so they should have legislated, not that we ignore the cancellation of the husband. They said have a third party, right? No, Rav Nachman says bezdin means in the mission two. So if saying two doesn't create that, the word doesn't get out soon enough, right? Where it doesn't become public knowledge. He says, add a third person, right? You see the question, second or so on the page, small tosis. Because even Rabbi Yochanan concurs there is an agon issue. They're both. So how do you resolve both? With one swipe? We say, unless you go and you cancel the agent in person, or you preempt the agent to the woman, the get is in force. I mean, so Rabbi Yochanan, the prevalent reason is mamzerim. But if we wouldn't have, he would concur with Reish Lakish. Even if you have three, it's still an issue. Because aguna, the woman's going to remain an aguna. Okay. Let's see the Gemara. Now the question, now the Gemara has a new question. After he cancels it, let's say the husband gave the get. Right? So he factually canceled it. Is the get canceled? Well, we'll see. No, we say if
the husband gives the get to the wife.
No. He canceled it. Let's say she marries.
Right.
Is it canceled or not canceled?
How do you cancel it?
In the presence of two.
Okay, all right, so it's not
But
good,
the
of course.
gift was delivered.
The get was it turned out he canceled the presence of two, right? We say to the husband, you cancel, we're going to ignore your cancellation. So we're hoping he's not going to cancel it.
He will do it himself.
Because he has to either inform the agent himself or inform the woman herself. He didn't do it, and the get was delivered. So we're hoping. So what's the takana? That he's not going to behave this way. But let's say he canceled it, and the get was delivered. Is the woman divorced or is she not divorced? That's the question.
According to what we just said, she's not.
Wait, we'll see. We'll see in a moment. There's an argument. There's an argument whether she's or not. It's machlokes tanoim. How's the get Yosha? The man is out of town. He's somewhere else. That's a good question. That's going to be the Gemara's question. If he canceled the agency, how could the get be a get? But either way. Tana Rabbanan. Botlo muvutul div Rebbe. Yeah? If he cancels it, it's canceled. He cancels the agency, it's canceled. And factually, if she remarries the children, she's a married woman, children are illegitimate. Okay? We were hoping he wouldn't, because we're telling him, we're going to ignore what you do. But factually, if he goes and crosses the line is crossed. Right? Shim Galil Omer Eina Yochol. Lo Levato Lo Husev Al Tano. He says he cannot cancel it unless he informs the agent directly or the woman directly. The get is in force. Or let's say he wants to add a condition to it. Originally gave it, it was not with a condition. He says, now only the get should be, she gives me so much money by a certain time, whatever condition he adds, can't answer. Once it's sent, unless he informs the agent before he gives it, it's conditional. The condition of what he says is irrelevant. The get could be delivered as is. Shim Kain, Makor Bezdin Yofer. Otherwise, what's the value of the court? They legislated that his cancellation is not a cancellation. He goes and ignores it. So, if that's the case, if there is no effect of what Bezdin had said, the community is going to lose respect for the Bezdin. See, the Gemara says this in Sanhedrin, but they're talking about a monetary. If the court gives a ruling and they made a mistake, so then we say the ruling's in force. Otherwise, people lose respect for the court. They say the court made a mistake. So the court will lose its whole credibility. So that's on a monetary level. I mean, here we're talking about if the get is not a get on a Torah level, I mean, she's a married woman married without a get. That's
right, but don't we say that when a Kohen marries a divorcee, even though he's not allowed to, that the marriage is still considered a marriage?
What does one thing have to do with that? It's a marriage.
Right,
It is a marriage.
so that's something that is not allowed, but yet it's allowed.
The woman's a married woman here. If a man didn't give his wife a get, she marries a third party. Is she married? She's a married woman. Married woman can only be married to one man, not two people. The takana was the get is not canceled. So,
takana is the get is not canceled.
But the man said the man doesn't represent me. How could it not be canceled? Right, and that's what Rebbe says. Factually, if he cancels, he's canceled. So if she marries, she's a married woman, and the kids are going to be illegitimate. They're going to be mamzera. That's Rebbe. What does it have to do with a Kohen?
Because a Kohen, I'm saying...
Yeah, she's a divorcee. She is a divorcee.
He can't marry her, but yet the marriage is still valid.
So what are you asking? So why a married woman can't she marry another man?
There's the takana, and
That's not a takana. It's not a takana by a Kohen. It's a Torah law.
It's a Torah law, even more so. And here, so why are we even questioning? It happens that it is still approved. So why are we questioning this? It's approved. Why are we questioning this takana?
Let's say a man says, "I will represent a man to divorce his wife." Could he represent the person if he was not appointed to be an agent to deliver the get?
No.
No. And let's say he said he does, and he gives the get to the woman. Is she divorced? No.
No.
She's not divorced.
Okay.
She's a married woman. She would remarry a third party. It's not a marriage.
Okay.
If she conceives a child, it's a mamzer. The husband says, "I do not want this man I appointed to be my representative any longer."
Right.
And it can be proven because he said in presence of 2 or 3 people. Finished.
But There's a decree here. The decree is they have to be in front of the agent or the wife.
But he says otherwise the court will lose its legitimacy or its validity.
So
What does one thing have to do with another? Because out of respect for the court, how do you permit a married woman to remarry? That's going to be the most question. On a Torah level, the get is canceled. It has no force. And because of people should maintain respect for the court, it should have validity. We're going to permit a married woman to remarry. How's it possible?
Okay, I'm just,
You think about it, you'll see why. Well, he's contemporary of Rebbe. I mean, evidently, Rebbe was the Nasi, was the prince. Okay, we'll get into the history. Okay.
He's trying to look at how wide this is.
I call it business. Okay. Now, it's interesting. How could you permit, from the Torah level, she's a married woman, how could you permit a married woman to marry when she's not divorced? So what's his name? We could work it out. Kol de Mekadosh, that's Rabban Mekadosh. When a person marries, the marriage is contingent on whether the Chazal, whether they approve of the marriage or not. And they went and they revoked, they annulled the marriage. So therefore, although he gave her money or whatever he did, the marriage was contingent whether Chachamim, Chazal were agreeable or not agreeable. They said this marriage we're not agreeable to.
This woman could marry a Kohen.
She won't be able to marry a Kohen. Because the base, rabbinically, on a Torah level, correct.
not divorced. Just annulled.
Yeah, but because factually, outwardly, it looks she's marrying because she was divorced. Omale Ravino L'Ravashi. Now, when we say Afkinu Rabbanu Kedushim Minei, what does that mean? So, because you have to answer the next more question. If it was contingent on what Chazal say, it was contingent. I'm only married if the Chachamim are agreeable to the marriage. If not, I have no interest in marrying the woman. The Gemara says that's very good if he married her, giving her something of value. Kodesh would be a Michael Meimar, but if he cohabited with her, and that was the means of marrying her, what are we going to say? I want to say the same thing. But it's conditional. It's conditional marriage. I'm only marrying you through cohabitation if Chachamim, they condone the marriage. If not, I have no interest in marrying you. Why is cohabitation any worse than money? He said the same thing. Rebbe Kodesh's Li, Biyazu, Kedas Moshe Yisrael said the same thing. Of course. I mean, first of all, was it witnessed? The act of cohabitation was witnessed. So how did he know he cohabited with her? And how did he know it was for the sake of Kedusha? So what? What do you mean a woman's pregnant? Which she's a married woman? She's not married. Unless the witnesses that there was a marriage, she's not married. Right? The answer is, so Rashi says in Kedushin, before he goes he secludes himself with a woman, he says to witnesses, I'm going to marry her with an act of cohabitation, Kedas Moshe Yisrael, then he goes there. And the presumption is he definitely had relations with her. Although the witnesses visually don't witness what's going on. So it's also Kedas Moshe Yisrael. No.
There were no witnesses.
No witnesses, nothing.
No, it's a promiscuous act.
Right. So Marsev, Shavir Rabon Lebilos Abilos Nus. We'll see Rashi. So the way Tosaf Ksubas learns it this way. I mean, even though, if he marries originally with money, I mean, ultimately, I mean, they were living together. So all the acts of cohabitation was Bilos Nus. But that's indirect cause. That's causality. Because they annulled the marriage, what happens later, subsequently, is Bias Nus. Here they're saying the original act, which was for the sake of marriage, we're saying it was a Bias Nus. Although his intent was, what he wanted was it should not be. So would they do such a thing or not? because it's more direct, and that Gemara says they do what they have to do. Regardless of what happens, indirect cause, direct cause, we're not going to allow this marriage to be a marriage because of illegitimacy and everything else that follows. Because Makor Bezin Yofer, well, otherwise people lose respect for the Chachamim, for the court.
Same thing with the star too. That
Say it was a conditional marriage. Same thing, exact same thing. So that was the question. So what's the worst question? What's the difference between marriage with money or through capitation?
or a star as well. Probably.
Same thing.
Why a star though? Star is a written document.
Same thing. It's conditional. It's same conditional. It's the same condition. Right. So that was our difficulty. If it was conditional, what difference does it make if it was money or if it was capitation? Either way, it's a conditional marriage. Let's see what Rashi learns. See, the way Tosas and Bambasha learns, he learns differently. What happens if he marries her and he doesn't say Kedas Moshe Yisrael? The Gemara over there is speaking about if a person goes and forces a person to sell his property and pays value, market value. He puts him on a tree, says, you know something, unless you sell me the property, you're not coming down from the tree. He hangs him up there. So the halacha is, we say, it's considered a valid sale. And he said, I consent. But he has to pay him value of the property. David, what about if a person goes and marries a woman and she's not agreeable to marry us? He puts her on a tree and says, look, you want to come down? I'm going to give you the ring. You have to consent to the marriage. She consents. She consents. So the Gemara says, is it Kodesh? Is it the same thing as consenting regarding the property or not? So the Gemara says, on a Torah level, it should be the same. But since Hu Osa Shlok Hogan, it's not appropriate. That's not the way you marry a woman. I mean, marriage has to be consensual where she truly wants, not halachically consensual. So therefore, since he behaved inappropriately, we act in kind to him, therefore we revoke the marriage. So the Gemara says, Tenach Kodesh B'Kaspa, that's very good. We annul the marriage if he gave her money. What about if he cohabited with her? He married through cohabitation. So there Tosafos says, what happens if he didn't say Kedash Moshe Yisrael? No. Just to the contrary. And he had in mind to marry her. So how did they revoke the marriage? How did they annul the marriage? Money, they say Hefker Bezin Hefker. You can only marry a woman if the value that you give the woman is your value. So they say, what you gave her was not yours. So that they're able to annul the marriage, regardless whether it was conditional or not conditional. But if it's an act, if he married through cohabitation, and he never said Kedas Moshe Yisrael, wasn't contingent whether they want or not. So if that's the case, she's married. So how did they revoke it? That's the worst question over there. Exactly, because the act was an act for the sake of Kedusha. He didn't say Kedas Moshe Yisrael, right? And that the Gemara says the Chazal have the ability to revoke it, even in that situation. Yeah, we talk about it. Normally we say, they have only the ability, let's say, to kill shofar on Rosh Hashanah falls out on Shabbos, or lulav falls out on Shabbos. So if passively, what about proactively to uproot something? So Tosa says a number of places, when it says they don't, it doesn't mean they don't act on that power. But they're empowered, authorized by the Torah, that if they have to, they can. So that's what they do over here. They say the act that you had done, it's not an act. I'll give you an example. We discussed this. What's the halacha? A person converts as a minor. As a minor. Bezdis, it says, the court converts him, and as long as when he becomes an adult, he doesn't protest it, the conversion is in place. Just has to protest. He says, I'm not interested. The court, so why? Because what the court had done was it's chiyuv. It's in his benefit, so Tosafos asks, but factually, it's chiyuv mitam shlichus. Right? The mechanics of doing something in somebody's best interest, how does the court represent anybody? You're his agent. Firstly, a minor cannot have an agent. So at the time of the conversion, how does the court represent the child? Secondly, he's not a Jew. He's not Jewish. How could they represent him to bring about conversion if he's not Jewish? So why is the Geros? Why is the conversion a conversion? That's Tosas' question. Tosas answers, on the Torah level, it's not a conversion. It's a rabbinic conversion. So the question is, but how does he, now he marries. Now he's an adult. He never protested the conversion. He marries a Jewish woman. On a Torah level, he's not Jewish. Right? Because the conversion was never recognized by the Torah. Because the court could only represent him if what? If he's a Jew. And if he's an adult, he was neither. Tosha says, Chachamim are empowered to do that regardless. Even though he's a non-Jew, even though he's going to be living like a Jew with a Jewish woman, it's okay. And it works on both sides. What about if she's Jewish? You say, with him, at least the child will be Jewish. If the wife is Jew. But what if the wife was the convert? So in truth, she's not Jewish. So what are her children? So through all the generations, if there's a female line, they're not Jewish on a Torah level. They're only Jewish on a rabbinic level. So all these women are going to be marrying Jews where in truth, they're not really on a Torah level, they're not Jewish. The Chachamim are empowered to do such a thing.
So it's a question. If a woman presented herself to the Beit Din and she didn't go through all the other elements of conversion, the mikveh and so forth, but they just said, you are Jewish.
They would never say such a thing.
If they did, they have the power to do this. It would seem that they have the power to do it.
If they felt that they would do it, they have the power to do it.
So they are basically saying, as an adult, we deem you Jewish. They've got the power to do it without going through all of the other rituals.
But they won't do it. Why should they do it?
They've got the power. I'm just saying, they've got the power to do it.
What about if I would say they don't, because that's acting irresponsibly. That's acting irresponsibly. So they're never empowered if they're acting irresponsibly.
No, I'm not saying they have a certain.
They're vested with a power by the Torah to do things, even if it's contrary to the Torah.
And if they deem that the circumstances
right.
are such, they have the power to do this. That's what we have to say.
But they're not going to deem it in one particular case. It has to be something which is prevalent and
they have the power. That's the point.
They have the power. They have the power. We had a Tosus. We had a Tosus in Avodah Zarah. When a king would die, they would cut the hooves off his steed, his horse, that no one else should be able to ride his horse. So Tosus asks, if you have the opinion Tzava l'chams d'oraiso, how do they permit it? No, because there's the horse they leave alive, that it should be. It's a statement. The king is no one's permitted to ride his horse. They said horse died. I mean, they killed the horse because we want to make the statement. What I'm saying, so Tosas, how do you do it? Tosas says, although normally they don't, but they're invested with the power that even though it's a doraisa, you're permitted to bring pain to the animal.